Okay, can you see the screen?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, all right. I don't know why this gets a little bit more complicated every time. All right, I think we got everybody in. Make sure. Okay, good deal. All right, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you all for joining us for today's A Month of Service presentation of our Maintaining and Adding Value to Your Home. My name is Nia Murray. I am the Programs Coordinator with Neighborhood Recovery Community Development Corporation, and we are one of the partners in the A Month of Service collaboration. Also included, we have the City of Houston's Department of Neighborhoods, the Earl Carl Institute, Texas Legal Services Center, Lone Star Legal Aid, um, Houston Volunteer Lawyers, Harris Central Appraisal District, and the Harris County Tax Assessor Collector's Office. And together we all make up a month of service. And basically, what a month of service is, just to kind of give you guys a brief little history, it's the collaboration of all of our organizations coming together with our own individual programs in a collective effort to try to reach more people and to create a larger impact and try to get as much information out to the community that we all serve as much as we can. In doing this collaboration several years ago, um, we used to be out in person and doing these particular sessions, but of course, we had to transition to the virtual platform, and it has allowed us the opportunity to reach more people from not only just around the city of Houston and Harris County, but from surrounding counties and across the entire state of Texas. In addition to some other people across other parts of the country that have joined in due to the fact that we are on a virtual platform. So we want to thank you guys for your continued support and allowing us the opportunity to reach out and to get this information out to as many people as we possibly can. So if you're joining us for the first time, we want to welcome you. If you're a participating partner that has been on with us for multiple sessions, then we want to definitely welcome you all back. And again, thank you for your continued participation into our collaboration. But this particular segment is one of the post homeownership series of neighborhood recovery, and it is about maintaining and adding value to your home. It's part of our asset building series where we want to make sure that we get um, kind of tell people what exactly does it mean to maintain your home. People, you get new homeowners or existing homeowners, and they really don't know some of the basic things that it takes to make sure that your home has some longevity. That you can there's small little things that you can do to help mitigate some larger expenses that can happen, that won't cost you as much in the long run, just by basic routine maintenance, whether it's caulking your windows and changing filters and watering lawns and just a little bit of everything. And then Brian is going to go into quite a bit more detail about all of those things. In addition to that, we know that a lot of people want to do renovations and things like that to their home, not knowing what actually adds value, what adds um, uh, pecuniary value, is that the word? Pecuniary value, what adds market value to your home when you're making those changes, and basically trying to keep in mind as you're making those updates and upgrades, what is it that you're trying to accomplish with the upgrade? Is it for the purpose of resale, or is it for your own personal use and pleasure? So do keep that in mind, and Ms. Collins is going to be going over that information. So do note that we are on a public platform. We are broadcasting live on social media, as well as recording the session. This is an opportunity for you all to be as interactive as you like, ask whatever questions that you like as it relates to this particular subject. And we want to have you guys engage with us and kind of tell us what your experiences have been like, and what is it that you want to kind of to get out of what we're offering for you today. So if you are joining us on social media, please feel free to type your question into the comment section. I'll be monitoring that to make sure your question gets answered at the end. If you're joining us here on Zoom, feel free to unmute yourself at the end, or you can also type your question into the chat, and we can make sure that your question gets addressed at the end of the presentation as well. But again, your opportunity to ask questions of the experts in their fields that are here. I know a little bit about a little bit about a lot of stuff, but I am by no means the expert in appraisal values and home maintenance and so on and so forth. So we wanted to make sure that you guys got the professionals that can give you the right information that is needed. So do know that information that we do provide on all of our workshops are for educational purposes only. It is not to be considered any kind of legal or professional advice. However, if you do find yourselves in need of any kind of assistance from any of our presenters or any of our partners, we do encourage you to reach out to them directly. We will be recording the session again, and I'll be sending out a link of the recording along with the contact information for our presenters if you all would like to contact them directly yourselves. So with that being said, we're going to go ahead into our introduction. Oh, sorry, by the way, I want to make sure I tell everybody to, as you're asking your questions, if you unmute yourself or put it into the chat, do keep in mind we are on a public platform. We want to try to protect your privacy as much as we possibly can. So we ask that you don't divulge any personal detail information about your particular circumstance, that you live on this street and your house looks like this, and that kind of thing. We don't want your personal information kind of getting out there for everybody to have access to. So just keep that in mind. Just wanted to say that. But we are going to move on into our introductions and right on into our presentation. So we're going to have Ms. Cecile Carlson with the City of Houston's Department of Neighborhoods introduce herself. We'll have our two presenters introduce themselves, and then we'll move right on into the presentation. So, Cecile.
Hi, everybody. Good afternoon. Thank you, Nia, for that introduction. My name is Cecile Carlson. I am an outreach coordinator here with the Department of Neighborhoods and one of the AMIS partners. Very excited to learn a little bit more today. Thank you so much to Brian and Nikki for being here. I'm excited to hear all of the advice that they have. And like Nia said, we're getting it straight from the professionals, people that do this day in and day out. So make sure to ask questions, make sure to participate, and share this information. And if you know anybody who might be interested in one of our workshops, please go ahead and forward that information. We're out here in the community trying to get the good word out and trying to empower and educate everybody with information that is direct from the professionals. So thank you so much, Nia, for the intro and for hosting. And thank you, Brian and Nikki. And I'm excited for this presentation.
Okay, Brian, no, Nikki, let's have you introduce, and then Brian, you can introduce yourself, and then we'll have you go on into because it looks like you're out on a job right now, so I don't want to I don't want to keep you as long as we need to. So, Nikki, introduce yourself, and then Brian, you go right ahead.
Hi, my name is Nikki Collins. I am a second generation real estate professional. I've been doing this for 20 years now. I started when I was 4. I actually just got my real estate license, so it's crazy now to be trying to do something a little different, a little scary. But I really am passionate about making sure that when people spend their money to build generational wealth, they're actually building generational wealth. So I'll be excited to share some insight with that with you.
Okay. All right. Brian?
All right. How's everyone doing this afternoon? My name is Brian. I am a certified master inspector here in the greater Houston area. And I've been in the inspection industry for over 6 years now. Originally an electrical engineer, worked in industrial construction and engineering, building power plants for many years. And I own a multi-inspection firm here in the greater Houston area, and I am looking forward to sharing some information that I believe will be helpful with you all today.
Okay. Why don't you go right on into your presentation, Brian?
All right. Well, I'm gonna jump right in. Miss Nia, do we have that?
I was going to ask you if you wanted me to put it
up.
up. Yes, I'm pulling it up now.
Please, that would be good. I think everybody would enjoy looking at my handsome face, but they could also enjoy looking at that that handout as well. So, all right. Well, my wife tells me my comedy is not my strong point, so I'm gonna get back to what I'm supposed to talk about. All right. So what we're going to discuss today is maintenance of your new home, and I want to share a couple of things with you all that I think is very important. So we're going to talk about maintenance overall, but one other thing that I want to mention to you guys as you're going on your journey in home ownership, I've been seeing a lot of um, new construction homeowners, and what I'm talking about, people buying new construction houses, and that's a good thing. It's not a bad thing, but one thing that I want to mention is that if you buy a home, a new construction home, there's maintenance that's required there as well. I've been seeing recently a few issues with some homeowners where essentially they bought a new construction house and they felt like, well, hey, everything's brand new. I don't need to do anything. And that couldn't be farther from the truth. And the reason why is because one of the advantages of buying a new construction home, there are certain warranties that are in place. For example, normally if you buy a new construction house, the builder will give you a warranty. Normally it's 1 year for certain specific things. Then you got 5-year warranty on top of that, 10-year warranty in some cases beyond that. And there are manufacturer warranties in addition to the builder warranties. For example, your air conditioning unit, let's just say it was built by a company called Carrier. Well, normally there's manufacturer warranties beyond and separate from the builder warranties. And part of the responsibility of the homeowner is that you're doing annual maintenance to be in compliance with this warranty. So one of the analogies that I'll make, and I'm gonna talk about this a little bit more, but it's no different than if you buy a brand new car right off the showroom floor. Well, that's great that you got a brand new car, but you can't drive that car for 3 years and never change the oil and then pull up in the dealership and say, hey, 3 years later, hey, I got some problems with this, and I want you guys to honor that warranty and fix this car. And well, what's going to happen is the dealer is gonna look for your maintenance records, and they're gonna say, hey, uh, when's the last time you changed the oil in this car? And when you say, well, I've never changed the oil, well, that's going to change the conversation that you and that dealer are about to have. So I'm gonna get into some home maintenance checklist items, but I've just been seeing that recently with new construction. This misconception out there that when you buy a new construction home, you don't have to do anything, and that's not the case. You do have responsibility as far as maintenance of things that you're supposed to be doing. So on this particular uh, this checklist that you see on your screen, we have it broken down into seasons: spring, fall, um, monthly, annually. And there's a lot of good information on here. And what I want to talk about it at a high level from what I'm going to call the big five systems of the house. So when I say the big five, the first system that I want to talk about is your roof. The roof is what covers everything on the home, and everything starts at the top with the roof. That's number one. And then I'm going to get into some maintenance there. Number two, we'll talk about the foundation of the home. The entire home is built on the foundation. There's maintenance involved with that foundation. Number three, we're going to talk about the HVAC system. HVAC standing for heating, ventilation, and air conditioning. It's very important here in the greater Houston area, but HVAC is a major system. Number four, we're going to talk electrical. And then number five, we'll talk about the plumbing system. So there's a lot more to a home than those, but those are the big five: roof, foundation, HVAC, electrical system, plumbing. And as a bonus, number 6, let's talk about termites. So termites is a real thing here in the greater Houston area. And then I'm going to briefly go through these systems one at a time and speak to them. All of these systems will be captured on this checklist. Miss Nia will share it with you all. But let's start with the roof. So a couple of things when it comes to the roof. Number one, the average lifespan in the Houston area is about approximately 20 years on a roof. So I say average because you may be able to get more, but if you're not doing proper maintenance, you may not get 20. But on average, the average lifespan is about 20 years. So some of the things that you can do as a homeowner to do proper maintenance is, number one, we want to make sure that we don't have tree limbs touching the roof. Whenever you have trees in contact with the roof, whenever the wind is blowing, it can the tree branches can sway back and forth. They can damage the shingles on the roof. It can shorten the lifespan. So we want the roof to be not contacted by tree branches. Number two, if you have gutters on your home, which I highly recommend, gutters are really good to have. You want to make sure that the gutters are cleaned and cleared regularly. If the gutters are full of leaves, you can end up with moisture backing up into the roof line, and also the gutters don't perform as intended for your grading and drainage. So making sure that, and then also finally, making sure that leaves and pine needles aren't collected on the roof. So I'm not suggesting that you as a homeowner climb up on your roof to clear these items, but a lot of times if you have a lawn care person, a lot of times these guys can take care of that for you. And at least once a quarter. And when I say once a quarter, I'm talking about once every 90 days. You know, here we are in the first 3 months of the year. So between January and the end of March, we want to make sure that our roof is cleared and our gutters are cleared. If that means trimming back some tree limbs, we want to do that. So those are a few things that you can do maintenance wise to extend the life of your roof and make sure that things are functioning properly. So that's the roof. Number two, the foundation. So when we're talking about the foundation, one of the main things that we want to do here in the Houston area is one the soil area around the foundation, we're maintaining a moderate moisture level. We don't want the soil around the foundation to be excessively saturated, and we don't want it to be too dry. Why do I say that? Because here in the Houston area, we have a more clay type expansive soil. And if the soil is too saturated, the soil can swell and expand, and that can cause movement of the foundation. If the soil is too dry in the summer drought months, you can get shrinkage of the soil. That can also cause shifting and movement. So we want to make sure that there's a moderate amount of moisture in the soil. So I'm not, basically what I'm saying is you don't want standing pooling water close to your foundation because that can cause, you know, oversaturation, but you don't want it to be too dry. So, you know, in the summertime, drought months, you know, once a week, once every other week, you can give it, if you don't have a sprinkler system, you can give it a little bit of water with your water hose. Nothing too, you know, extravagant, but just a little bit of moisture there. The other thing that I'll mention with your foundation maintenance and health, as a general rule of thumb, you don't want trees too close to your house. Normally, a 10-foot distance is the minimum of where we want to be when it comes to a house. We don't want trees closer than 10 feet to the house because you can get tree roots that grow and interfere with the foundation. So 10-foot distance minimum away from the home for trees, adequate moisture for the foundations to be should be sufficient. So those are a couple of thoughts that I'll share with you about system number 2, the foundation. System number 3, HVAC. So our heating and cooling are very important systems, and we want to maintain them. The average lifespan for air conditioner and heater furnaces is about 15 years. Again, if we're not doing the maintenance on these units, we may not get 15 years. If we're doing proper maintenance, we may get more than 15 years. So what is proper maintenance? Proper maintenance. So number one, it's actually not a bad idea to have a relationship with an air conditioning company, a reputable certified HVAC company, where they come out once a year and do what they call a tune-up to your unit. So what do? Normally this is maybe $200, and they come out, they're going to clean the evaporator coil, they're going to clean the condensation drain, check the refrigerant level. That's not a bad idea to have that relationship with an HVAC company to be doing maintenance on your unit annually. Now, there are some things you can do yourself as a homeowner. You know, if for some reason you decide you don't want to call, you don't want to spend the $200. Well, what you can do is you can change your air filters once every 90 days, at least. If you have pets or, you know, I mean, if there's someone smoking in the house, you may have to do it more frequently than that. But when you change your air filters, it really helps with the performance of the unit. If the air filters are clogged and caked up with dust and stuff like that, it's going to make the unit have to work harder. So that's something that you can do yourself, is changing your air filters. And also, I have a comment on the checklist about pouring bleach into the condensation lines. You can pour bleach or vinegar. Basically, that will keep the condensation lines clear. And that's something else important to do. You can go to YouTube and look at how to do that. But if you don't want to do that yourself, again, you can call an AC company out. On that AC, changing the air filters, having the unit serviced once a year is good idea. So that's number 3. Number 4, I talked about the electrical system. So on the electrical system, there, you really want to make sure that all of your electrical outlets are functioning properly. If you got loose outlets at the walls, things like that, you want to make sure that you have those tightened. Test your smoke detectors. You want to make sure that your smoke detectors are current. Doorbells working, lights are functioning. These are all things to be proactive with. As a homeowner, I normally recommend that you have some trusted professionals on your team in case you need someone. So what am I talking about? You should have in your phone a trusted handyman that you can call if something goes wrong. Maybe an electrician, a plumber. I have a list of preferred vendors I can share with you guys if you need that. But being a homeowner is actually similar to being a project manager. And you need to know who to call in case you need something. You can call me. I can help you out with some of these things. But electrical is making sure your outlets are functioning properly, lights, things like that. And if things are in disrepair, you want to be proactive as far as, you know, checking these items. GFCI outlets. I'm talking about the outlets in the kitchen, bathroom with the little reset switches on there, making sure, pressing the little test button, making sure those are functioning properly. So simple things like that are good ideas. Plumbing is the number 5 system that we talked about. So you want to make sure that we're not flushing things down the drain that are not intended to go down the drain. Non-flushable wipes, all these different kind of things, grease, stuff like that. We want to be very aware that we are not flushing things down our drains that can cause problems. It gets very expensive to start doing work to the underground plumbing system if there becomes a problem. So be careful what we're flushing down our drains. Also, our toilet seats, we want to make sure the toilets are anchored securely and sealed at the floor interface. If you can walk up to your toilet and take your knee and nudge it and the toilet moves around at the base, we don't want that. So, because that can develop into a leak that you don't want. So we want to be aware of, things like that, loose faucets, things like that. So you just want to be proactive with our plumbing system. And then the final system, that the bonus I talked about, termites. The main thing there, you want to keep the area around the perimeter of your home clean and clear. We don't want excessive vegetation touching the home, soil, mulch too high at the home perimeter. These are all attractive areas for for termite problems. So clean and clear around the foundation, easy on the vegetation, covering the home, contacting the home. And these are some of the things that you can do as a homeowner to be proactive with extending the life of your home. This checklist will be made available to everyone. My contact information is also here. Phone number 281-734-3118. And if anyone has any questions, I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Okay. Let me see if I've got anything in the chat here. I don't see anything in the chat. However, I do have a quick question for you. What are your recommendations right now where it's December, it's Houston, and we're in the middle of another cold front that's coming through? What's the recommendation for homeowners preparing their homes for the cold front that's coming?
So that's a good one. So one of the main things that you can do as a homeowner is know where your main water shutoff valve is located. If for some reason you have to turn off all the water to your home, you need to know where that's located. A lot of times it may be on a wall in the garage. It may be on an exterior wall. It may be at the water meter, but you need to know how to turn off all the water to your home if you need it. There's been situations where we've had ruptured pipes and things like that here in the Houston area. And one of the things that cause problems for a lot of people is not knowing where to turn off all the water to their home. So that's one of the first things. And then insulating your outdoor pipes and stuff like that. Those are all good steps. Disconnecting the water hose from your exterior hose bib. That's important because one of the things that can happen if you leave the water hose connected, that water can freeze in the water hose and that water can expand and cause a rupture at the hose bib. So disconnect those water hoses and then insulate that water spout is a good, easy step that everyone can do. So those are a couple of things that are good ideas to do.
So considering it's December already, if in case somebody has not had their annual tune-up, when it's the wintertime for their heating system, is it too late for them to get it done now?
It's not too late. I mean, it's better to do it now than not do it because the way that this stuff normally works is when you need the system the most is when it's not going to work. So it's better to be proactive. Now, what I normally recommend a lot of the HVAC companies, AC companies, they can actually set you up on an automated maintenance schedule where they call you once a year and say, hey, Miss Nia, it's time for us to come out and service your unit. What's a good day this week, next week for us to come and do that for you? That way you don't have to remember to call every year. And some people say, oh, Brian, hey, look, I don't want to spend that kind of money to call these people and have them come out service my unit. Well, I would suggest that I would rather pay somebody $250 to keep my unit in good working condition versus $5,000-$10,000 to replace the whole thing if it completely goes out on you. So, you know, it's what do you want to what do you want to do? And so, you know, if you haven't had it serviced, do it.
Mhm. And I know that with most for folks, if they have a home warranty, that some of the home warranties or most of the home warranties actually have an annual tune-up that's included or something like that for their AC unit. So definitely take advantage of that. If you're already paying for a warranty, you may as well be using, you know, that kind of service along with it as well. So um, let me see. I know there was one question. I'm gonna find the question, but I know we had another question that had come in that was emailed to me, Brian. So hold up just a second. But in the meantime, if anybody does have any questions,
And you mentioned home warranties. So I'll say something about that real quick. So
okay,
a home warranty is great. It's better than not having one, but a home warranty is not like when you were living in the apartment and you call the maintenance guy and he comes,
right?
shows up and fixes this and that. That's not what a home warranty is. That's another misconception that I see a lot of people um kind of thinking that, oh, hey, look, I bought a new house, I got a warranty, and well, they're gonna come fix everything every time I have something. No, that's not what it is. It's not the maintenance guy at the apartment that you used to live in. That's not what a warranty is. So you need to understand what's included in the warranty coverage, what's excluded, what's expected of you as a homeowner, what's the deductible every time you want something fixed. So, a home warranty is not just this magic pill that's going to fix everything at your house every time something gets loose and starts leaking.
Indeed, indeed. And FYI, we are here to not endorse any particular warranty company or anything like that. So everybody would have to definitely do their own research as it relates to their home warranty.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. I
let's
would actually recommend, in addition to your home warranty, having some sort of emergency fund set to the side when you're a homeowner, $500, $1,000, something. I mean, and that's a whole different conversation, but you know, just saying that warranty is not gonna just solve all your problems for you. Because as a homeowner, stuff is gonna happen.
Mhm. Okay. So the other questions that were emailed to me was about quarterly and monthly maintenance. So you answered that already. This particular one is something that you're probably not going to cover is how do you turn an old house that has central, how do you turn an old house? Okay. This is upgrading the central air and heat, the one that didn't have central air for an older house. So that's something else. That's another
Yeah.
issue.
So the solution to that is get your checkbook out and call the HVAC company because all it takes is money and they'll get it done for you happily. But yeah, just bring your purse and they'll take care of you.
All righty. I don't see any other questions in the chat here. I think we're gonna move on to the adding value to your home. I believe that's all we've got for you for right now for Brian. So I don't know if you're sticking around or if you're gonna go back on the job here or what, in case we've got a couple of other questions that pop up. But that's the checklist that Brian was referring to. I am going to include it in the email that I send out of the recording of this session so that everybody can have like a little hands-on kind of thing of what's something that they need to do on a more regular basis. So considering after we were talking about the checkups or the tune-ups, after the winter time is over with, what's the ideal time to get the checkup before the
So
season comes for the
so what I normally recommend if you're very proactive with your HVAC maintenance, so normally about March and April is a really good time to have your tune up before the summer months. That's a really good time to get that done. And then the second one is normally October, November before we start getting the hard freezes. That's the second time to have your unit tuned up before we get into the winter time. And if you're doing that you know, twice a year, I mean, you're in the top 1% better than what most people are doing. But at a minimum, you should be having it done at least once a year. I mean, March, April, and I mean that's better than nothing at all before it gets really, really hot.
This brings me to another question real quick. The drain pan. I've seen in plenty of houses that I've been into where people have the stains and stuff like on their ceiling underneath where their AC unit, and people automatically assume that it's a roof leak or something like that, as opposed to it's where the drain pan has overflowed, on a unit. Can you explain what that is and how that works?
So that's lack of maintenance. So if you do not service your air conditioning unit, and I'll be brief. So one of the main functions of an air conditioner unit is removing humidity from your home. And when it's removing humidity, it produces condensation, your air conditioner unit. And part of what happens when it produces condensation, that condensation has to drain out and go somewhere. And when that condensation moves through the condensation piping, it can fill up, it can get clogged up with, algae and stuff like that. And when that condensation line gets clogged, that's when the pan underneath the unit can fill up with water, it can overflow, and that's how people end up getting stains on their ceiling. Now, if you're doing that maintenance on your unit annually, in theory, you shouldn't have that problem because they're going to make sure that pan, that drain line is cleared. So do your annual maintenance, you won't have that problem. But, some people, you know, call a roofing guy out thinking that, oh, my roof is leaking, and the roofing guy is going to happily take your money to come out and then tell you, no, you need to call the AC guy. And then now you got to pay him too to come out when you could have did the maintenance up front and you didn't have to call either one of them and spend all that money. So follow that seasonal maintenance guide. And again, hey, if you're buying a new house, you need to call me to inspect it before you buy it. 281-734-3118. Don't you buy a new construction house without getting it inspected. Don't beat it. Don't make that mistake.
Don't buy any house without getting it inspected. Period.
Any house at all.
Mm-hmm. Would you recommend for somebody if they're not buying a house and they just kind of want to know what else is going on with my house? Would you recommend that they get an inspection to, just to kind of see what else is going on?
I do. I'll give you guys a perfect example. So there was this young lady, her grandmother passed, she left her a house, and grandma wasn't, keeping up with the maintenance, and she just didn't know where to start. She wanted to keep the house, wanted to do some upgrades, and she said, Brian, can you just come? I just need to know top to bottom what's going on with this house. So I did a full inspection for her, and then she got a report, all the structural, mechanical, electrical, and then she was able to kind of prioritize, okay, look, I want to start here with making these corrections, and then I want to get this done and that done to get the house back where it needs to be. Also, I'll do inspections. There's another lady, she had a contractor in her house doing some work, and she was kind of, not completely comfortable with everything the contractor did. And she said, look, hey, before I release all these payments to this guy, I need to have somebody come look at this stuff to help me understand, what's done, was it done properly, this, that, and other. So, number one, never pay these guys up front all the money because they can possibly disappear and never come back. But before you release that final payment, you need to look at it and feel comfortable, or have a trained set of eyes come look at it for you. And then we can talk about the corrections that need to be made before you release payment. This is on the house that you own.
Okay.
I think you're muted, Ms. Neal.
Yeah, I accidentally did that. Sorry. All right. I believe that is it. Again, thank you very much, Brian. We really appreciate you. You can get back to your job now. We know, again, we know you kind of pulled you aside to come in to give this presentation. But again, that's why we also, my dog says hello. We want to make sure that we have the professionals that are experts in their areas to provide you guys with this information. So up next, we have Miss Nikki Collins with Keys Real Estate Services, who's going to be going over in appraised value for your home. What increases? And their word just trips me up as market value versus pecuniary value to your home. So, Miss Nikki, I'll let you explain what that means.
Okay, let's share the screen. I try to make the slideshow fresh, but it's most of it is just the baseline information that I think is important as people are trying to figure out what's best to do with their property. So, I've already done a lot of this. Only thing I didn't say was that my IT is background, and I guess I need to change the real estate professional number because it's been another year. It's a whole year's passed since we've done this. So let's get started. All right, so when you're looking at anything that is an investment, and even though our homes are castles and it's where our heart is, and it's where we grow our babies, whether they have flesh or fur, and it's where we have tomatoes in the backyard, it's still an investment. It's still an investment. So the thing to consider anytime you're talking about the an investment is what is the return? And so we talk about ROI being the return on investment. We're going to talk about the difference between cost and value. We're going to talk about the difference between pecuniary value and personal values. Just keep those things in mind as we move forward. So return on investment measures the profit you have made or could have made on an investment, right? So if you know that I'm purchasing this and I want it to make 10%. So it says if I spent $10, I need to get back 11. I need it to have made me $1, right? So that's all ROI represents. Just how much, what percentage of increase do I want to see from what I put out? So here's where it gets tricky though. We tend to think that things are worth what we pay. And that's true sometimes, right? I would say right now, I know y'all sick of hearing about eggs, but let me tell you something. Right now, I'm not so sure that eggs are worth what we pay. I went to HEB and I was looking at the tags, and one said 15 before the decimal point. And I am just not convinced that I have met a $15 carton of eggs.
Especially if it's not from a golden goose, I don't want it.
Come on. And you know, it was like 2 dozen eggs. I was like 24 eggs for $15. I don't know. That clearly there is something more in those eggs than any we've had before. So cost versus value. Just because I pay something for a particular thing does not mean that that's what it's worth, right? A lot of times we get hung up in the hardest part of being an appraiser is when two market participants have agreed on a contractual price, and then the appraiser comes in and says, I know you all agreed to, this literally happened here recently. I know you all agreed to 310, but the value is 240. Oh, the calls we got in this office. And so, because we look at data, we look at what reasonable market participants will buy. Let's talk about value though. Let's talk about value. Cost is easy. Cost is just the price tag. And people like to tell you my price is my price, you know, and all of that kind of thing. And those things are great, but what is it actually worth? So there are two primary ways that we calculate value. The first way is the way that everybody typically can understand. It's dollars and cents. This shoe cost me $10. And when I look out on the open market, This type of shoe tends to sell for $10. Cost and value did a good job of meeting up right there. This shoe cost me $50. When I look out on the market, this type of shoe costs $25. However, this was the last pair of this shoe I could find, and it looks just like the shoe that I had when I was 5. And I want my baby to wear, I want my 5-year-old baby to wear the shoes that I wore when I was 5. And so it is worth it to me personally to pay an additional $25 for this shoe. That's personal value. Personal value is about the oohs and ahs and the feel goods and of it all when we make purchases, because that is that part. Retail therapy is a real thing. You get a serotonin boost, you get an endorphin boost, you get all of those things when you make a purchase. A purchase makes you either really happy or really sad. And so there is that emotional part of a purchase. There's also that emotional part of a sale. Because I've grown up in real estate all my life, I typically don't have emotional ties to buildings, but I know people do. My husband and I purchased our first home in Georgia when he was in the military. And it is the first home we ever purchased. We brought our newborn there. You know, we had our first big family to-dos and gatherings there. And when it was time for us to leave Georgia and to come back to Texas, we had to put that house on the market. And there were people who were like, oh, how are you going to make it? You know, you brought your baby there. And I was like, girl, it's a house. And we move into another house in Texas and we'll have fresh memories there. But we took the memory people with us. So I think we'll be okay. And so, you know, it's kind of, but I have a really good friend who cried when his parents sold his childhood home that needed to be sold. Do you hear me? But he could not take the loss of the edifice of the memory. And so that's the pecuniary and the personal value. The pecuniary, cold hard cash, dollars, cents, tax breaks, and personal value talks about how we feel. Now, things that can impact our return on investment. The rising cost of money, labor, and materials. Let me tell you what's hurting my feelings about that particular line on this slideshow. So we've been doing this for a while, and I keep expecting to be able to take that line off because things are like settling, and they are not. So because money is still expensive, how do we know that money is expensive? Because interest rates are up. And you say, well, I'm not preparing to take out a loan to do whatever it is that I'm doing. You are still impacted by the rising cost of money. How are you impacted? Because the trucker who had to bring your materials from Timbuktu, he takes out a loan to pay his operating costs, right? Until people pay on his contracts. Well, his interest was marked up. And so that cost gets fed to the big warehouse where he is the driver for, who he's the driver for. So that big warehouse now has increased costs in order to deliver you the goods. So they mark that up. So if you keep moving down that chain, by the time it gets to you, eggs are $15 in the HEB. Get what I'm saying? So all of those things impact us along the way. Labor is getting tight, and it's going to get tighter before it gets looser. You listen, I feel artistic, right? ARTISTIC. Did I spell that right? Yeah, artistic. And I feel like I could do a really great job painting my walls, right? However, I have painted a wall before, and me, my 5-year-old, not that far apart in how that wall's gonna look at the end. So when you talk about qualified, and it's good, y'all, I'm an HGTV girl. I'm getting ready to grow some potatoes in a storage bin like a week after next, as soon as I come back from vacation. But you want to be sure if you are doing something with pecuniary value in mind, that those who do the work are qualified to do so. Why? Because if an appraiser comes in, one of the things that happened with that 310,000 to 240 is they had done a garage conversion, right? And what they had done was sheetrock the walls, sheetrock the ceiling, and sheetrock in the garage door. Well, here's the problem. Floor wasn't elevated. You know, there are some things that go into making an area living space. Those things were not done. So all you had was an enclosed garage. You didn't have expanded living space. They had built a portion in the backyard, right? And when I was looking at it, the siding began just a few inches off the ground. I knew that wasn't enough foundation. You know, and so I was like, I can't even count this as space at all. You know, this is going to do nothing. So you were hanging your hat on things that provided no value because those who did the work weren't qualified to do so. So you just want to make sure that you're choosing good materials, that you have good qualified contractors and subcontractors, so that the return on your investment is realized. This used to make a difference. I'm not real sure how much of a difference this is making right now because it is volatile out in these real estate streets still. So are you in a seller's market versus buyer's market? We love to talk these terms, but what does it mean? Seller's market typically means that the seller can just tell you whatever they want and you ought to do it. It's really what it means. And the only way that works is if the historical comparable data in the market supports it, right? One of the things that happened during the pandemic, as more people were working from home and they were looking for certain qualities of life, and you know, you could kind of work anywhere, live somewhere else. We had a massive influx into Texas, right? Texas always looks good to people who are not from Texas. I tend to advise people, to admonish people when they are moving from somewhere that's super expensive and they are coming to Texas, that if you could not afford a house like that where you came from, you probably won't be able to afford a house like that here, because even though prices may be lower, we eat your lunch in property taxes and insurance. I'm telling you what I know, because honey, baby, property taxes and insurance in Georgia, we were like, so y'all just giving it away. But Georgia had income tax. You know, so it's just, you got to roll those numbers to be sure of what it is you're doing. So in a seller's market, typically what happens is interest rates are low, right? We remember that part of the pandemic. That was one of the best parts of the pandemic because it felt like a fire sale. So interest rates are low, which means that you have a lot of market participants. You put a house on the market, you have 80 offers coming in, and it's only been out for 30 minutes. And everybody's like, I'm going to pay whatever you want. And then you have, big Northeast or big West coming in. They're like, I got all cash. And I know you have the house listed for $200,000. I'm going to pay $500,000. Guess what just happened when they did that? They created a sales comparable in the market for $500,000. So now when when someone else is getting ready to list their house, they're going to ignore all those 240, 250 sales alone, right? They're going to say, we have that one $500,000 comp in the market. So instead of selling this for 230, 250 like we should, let's try 310 and see what we do. And if you get enough of that in the market, honey, those sellers are going to go off like wildfire. Let's flip it. So now, here we are, and Interest rates are through the roof. They said we have to fix all of what we messed up during the pandemic. We about to take this stuff on a ride. Well, that now means that a lot of the people who were able to participate in the home market prior to now, they can't. They can no longer afford it because the interest rates have pushed them out. You say, well, I can afford the house, right? The $230,000 makes, I'm completely qualified for a $230,000 house. Well, the only thing now is a $230,000 house is like a 2-bedroom, 1 bath, and it's 14 of us who are going to be, this isn't going to work anymore. And so the market pool gets smaller. Interest rates get higher, market pools get smaller. Now the seller has to make some concessions. Before, you had ugly linoleum floors that had cigarette burn holes in them. And the buyers were like, it's okay, we'll fix it. I don't care what's wrong, you know, because I got money coming out of my ears, I'll fix it. Well, when you get to the buyer's market, they're like, I know that you have those engineered hardwood floors that you put in right before you got ready to list it, but we prefer bamboo. So now we want a credit in the contract. That's a buyer's market. It's all about who can talk the trash to make the deal happen. And so both of those things impact the return. In a seller's market, the seller is going to realize most times than not a greater return on their investment. And the opposite is true in a buyer's market. So we talked about a lot of get your head full of some knowledge. So now let's talk about what I think we're getting into, so a little bit of the fun things. So time is of the essence. That's I'm not a lawyer, but I like that legal phrase. And that means that you know, whatever we're saying, you must be bound by this time frame. And you kind of want to think about that when you're making changes to your property, because here's some things we're going to consider. How long will you own the property? That personal value becomes such a reasonable value when I don't have a reasonable expectation of moving, right? If my reasonable expectation is I'm going to be here for the next 10 years, then this thing that's costing me $20,000 to do is really only $2,000 to do per year. It's less than $200 per month. I'm willing to pay less than $200 a month to make me happy. It's worth it, right? And so that's kind of how you break that thing down. It's how I justify purses and shoes and carrying on. So how long will you own this property? Then you have the homestead property versus an investment property. The homestead property is the one you live in, right? Because I know that a lot of times as people are trying to build real estate portfolios, and it is the only asset that doesn't change is land, right? There's only one piece of that land anywhere in the world when you own it. And so not everybody is just looking to make changes to properties they own. So is this for me to live in and enjoy? Or is this for me to lease out? Is it for me to sell? Is it for me, is it for me to do something else where I will not directly get the enjoyment factor of this, right? If I won't enjoy the fruits of my labor, then that should change how I approach the changes in the property. So here's this is another education piece. So deferred maintenance versus capital improvement. Sometimes we do things and we believe that they should make a really big difference. And I know because I get these lists and I think the lists are helpful. So if you're in real estate, keep giving the appraisers the list, right? It's all the things that were done before the house was listed. Now, if you're telling me stuff that was done 7 years ago, girl, take that off that paper. But things that have been done in the last 2 or 3 years, you want to include those things. New roofs, new air conditioners, new roofs, new air conditioners, that kind of thing. The only thing I want you to consider is there are certain things that are deferred maintenance and there are certain things that are what we call capital improvement. Deferred maintenance, Brian just went through a wonderful list of what it means to carry out to not have deferred maintenance, right? Deferred maintenance means you didn't do it. right? But those things that when we see them, we were like, oh, those are deferred maintenance issues that they took care of, right? It's routine actions that keep your asset in its original condition. In Texas, particularly this part of Texas, you got to have heating and cooling. I don't care if it's a window unit. You got to have heating and cooling. So you're like, oh, I just put in a new AC. And we're like, oh, that's great. So is it because they're upgrading, to the ones that don't use Freon? Because in a minute, everybody's going to have to upgrade, right? They've already told us they're getting ready to make that change. Well, we'll see how it goes. But it's like, was it that, or was it that the last one was 15 years old and it was time, right? We just put on a brand new roof. Oh, okay, well, how old was the roof before that? 25 years old. Well, girl, it was a 20-year roof. You were 5 years too late putting the new roof on. So now I'm wondering if it's leaks in here. Do you get what I'm saying? There are certain things that you just have to do to keep the value of your home. Capital improvements, though, are those that are made to increase the value. You have those you can see and you have those you can't see. This house was built in 1982. And so, of course, it was galvanized plumbing, linoleum floors, Formica countertops, right? And honey, it was the bee's knees when it was built. It was hot stuff, right? Wood paneling everywhere. It was a 70s, 80s baby's dream in here. But there are some things you have to do in order to keep up with the times. Not necessarily tones, it's just the times, right? So we found out over time that galvanized pipe leaks, right? It corrodes over time. So we had a wonderful period in here where there were holes all over the house as the galvanized pipe was replaced with PEX. Capital improvement, but one you can't see. That's why we're grateful for the list. Now, the capital improvements we can see is the linoleum was gone and it was replaced by the big, wide, beautiful plank tile floors, right? The ones that look like wood, but you can't tear them up because you have 6 children and a dog. So there are those kind of things that are those investments that actually increase the value. Why? Because they move the condition needle. We're going to talk about that a little bit later, but they move the condition from being outdated to being current. So that's how you tell the difference. Is if I had not done this, would the house function like it should, right? Deferred maintenance is about function like it always has, right? And then capital improvement says, does it function like a house that was built now would? And so that's typically how we tell the difference. So, okay, think like we're gonna think 2 ways. First thing we're gonna do is we're gonna think like a buyer. When you're making changes, and this is about if you're planning to sell, you're planning to lease, those kinds of things. When you're making changes, think like your audience. And what I mean when I say that is those things that we hold near and dear to our own hearts, you may not need to do that for a buyer. A buyer just may want a solid surface countertop. He may not care if it's granite or Carrara marble, because if you look at those 2 pieces right there, unless you really know stone, you can't tell which one is Carrara marble and which one is granite. And if you can't tell, the average buyer, unless you're in a super luxury section of the market, wouldn't know either. Then I want you to think like an appraiser. I told you, we look at the historical data of sales that have been happening in your area. So what's happening in the homes around me? If the homes around you still have linoleum, girl, leave your linoleum. If you like it, we gonna love it, because that's what's happening in all of these homes right now. But if these are 80-year-old houses in my neighborhood right now, if you have linoleum in your house, please sell it to me, because I ought to be able to get it for a song. Because what we're doing out here is the tile and the wood and the vinyl plank and the laminate, the floors have changed and there's no Formica anywhere anymore. And if you have wood paneling in a lot of the houses, they're painting it because you want it to be great and white, gray and white and bright. So there are just some things that are happening in the homes around you, and you kind of want to keep that same thing going. If they have changed out plumbing, then you want to make sure your plumbing has been changed out, because those things will impact your value. Quality or quantity. Just because something was expensive doesn't mean it's going to raise your value. Do not go buy bamboo floors to put in a house where, property values are like 250, imported bamboo. Don't bring in the big jade bathtub where you have to knock a hole in the wall just to get it in. You're not going to see that value back. So that goes to, am I over improving or not doing enough? You don't want to go above, just ridiculously out of the wall. Do not bring in the jade bathtub. Don't put a jade bathtub in this house, right? It's not, you better want to enjoy both the cost of ripping that hole in the wall and fixing it back and the expense of having them carve that jade for you, because you will never see that money back pecuniarily. And so you don't want to over improve, but you also don't want to not do enough, because sometimes we take the attitude of, let me kick this can down the road. The next owner can do it. Well, that's fine. They can do it, but they are going to walk through your home with cash register, cha-ching, 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 going off in their head. And as they're walking, the price that they're going to be willing to pay is going down. And you would say, well, that's fine. That's just the buyer. It's not the appraiser. It's us too, because we know what's happening in the other homes and we know how the market is moving. Is it cooling? Right now, we're still pretty cool, not just outside, but even in the numbers. That real hot fire we saw that people are still hoping to attain, it's not happening right now. So there are just certain things that you can get away with in a hot market that you can't necessarily get away with right now. So let's look at some low cost changes. I always tell people, number one is clean up. Clean up. If you don't want to do it yourself, have somebody come in, deep clean your house, get all the cobwebs, take the smudges off the wall, that kind of thing, because there is something about a really deep clean that just makes a place feel well maintained and well kept. But if you haven't done what we consider to be a base and simple thing, we are now looking for those signs that you also did not do the deeper care items. And this comes from the mom of 6, who sometimes, it's a mess over here. And then an easy thing we say is to refresh painting. You have that place where the kid drew on the wall, paint that wall. Where there were smudges because the dog had gotten in love, repair that damaged sheetrock, paint that wall, fix that door where, one of the kids got mad and there's a hole in the door, replace that door. Those things that don't take a lot to do, go ahead and do those things, because that helps with condition, not only from the appraiser standpoint, but it makes someone who's coming in and looking at your property not begin to have those cash registers going off in their heads. So if you want to make a big move with your needle, the cliche says what sells houses, kitchens, and bathrooms. And it's true. When we look at our standard real estate form, they're getting ready to change it in September. We'll see what that looks like. But right now, when we are judging condition, the only rooms it asks about in the house with whether or not they have been updated is kitchens and bathrooms. Why? Because replacing out carpet is kind of inexpensive, right? Changing painting is fairly inexpensive. And I know you'll say, no, that really is expensive. And that's true, unless you're talking about moving plumbing or replacing a bathtub or bringing in new countertops and cabinets, replacing a toilet, just the things you have to do, bringing in all new appliances in a kitchen. Those things tend to take more work, effort, and money. And so when those things have been done, it makes everything else that may need to be done. If you have where somebody has completely redone the kitchen and the master bathroom, I'm sorry, I can't say master bathroom anymore, the primary bathroom, then you look at the rest of the house and you say, oh yeah, I could finish these few things. But if they had painted and done the carpet, but the bathrooms and kitchen looked like something out of a 70s, shake movie, I don't know what you call them, then all you see is the work that it's going to take in those areas. So the other piece is floor decor. Even though you may like really bright, passionate, lively colors, if you are preparing to sell your property, be careful with that, because all someone is going to see is what they're going to have to pay someone in order to replace that. So this is a new piece that I've added now, because this is something that has been coming up quite a bit in the appraisals that I've been doing in the last year. The first thing is solar panels. Is it worth it? So let's talk about how these things are done. Typically, when you get solar panels, it can cost you, $20,000 to $25,000. It's typically financed separately from the purchase of the home. And the long and short of it is, we live in oil and gas land, right? We are not yet a market who majorly values with our wallet energy efficient items, right? So although we may enjoy the idea of not having an electricity bill because we have solar panels, we being a buyer, will also not be willing to take on the expense of paying out your loan to have solar panels. I recently had a situation where I was doing an appraisal, and the lender was requiring that the seller pay the loan off on those solar panels before they would allow the buyer to purchase it. And quite frankly, the market didn't show, because we have to show evidence, right? An appraiser just can't say, well, I feel like this is valuable. We have to say the market says, the market shows, the data proves. And there just is not yet that data to support that. If two houses were next door to each other, they were identical in floor plan, function, and design, but one had solar panels and one didn't, that someone would pay more for the solar paneled house. That's the logic, right? And so because that's still the logic, y'all, we don't give anything for solar panels. Appraisers, not yet. I'm sure there are some appraisers who would, but we look at what your peers would do. That's the standard for appraising. And by and large, in this particular markets, are there markets where solar panels are valued, valuable, they add value, they contribute? Yes. This is not, just isn't one of them quite yet. Generators. Because I'm telling you, the stuff that comes up. By all means, with all of the craziness that is having with our grid, if you want the security of knowing that you will always have power, get a generator. However, if you are like, I'm getting ready to sell my house, I'm going to put a generator in so I can sell it for more, don't do that. Don't do that. Again, two houses next door to each other. Same floor plan, same function, same design. One has a generator, one doesn't. No market data to support or a higher or inflated price for the one with the generator. Swimming pools, same. If I have a pool. Let me tell you the thing. Your insurance is higher. Yes. Okay, I'm sorry, she's 5. Okay. Yeah, she's 5. So swimming pools, really plan to enjoy the pool yourself, and be willing to not get as much back for it as you put into it. That's all I'm saying about these 4 things. The same thing for the outdoor kitchen. These are things where we advise people that plan to really enjoy it. And the solar panels, to me, is probably the hardest part of them all, because the technology changes so fast. but the life of that loan to pay for those panels is so long. You know, very often by the time you're done paying for the panels, they're obsolete and there's something brand new out there powering homes. And so, you know, we just say be sure that you're going to have an opportunity to enjoy that work that you've done. So, what do we do from here? If you are planning to make changes to your home, whether you're going to enjoy it yourself, whether you're planning to live out, you know, whether you're planning to move out and sell it, or if this is an investment property that you're going to lease, before you do anything, make a plan, write it down, know how much you are willing to invest, have a reasonable expectation. Do not have a 50%. I need a 50% return on investment. Let me tell you what I would advise. Watch TV, you know, because you're going to get way closer to 50. You're going to get, you know, watch a show you really love, because you may very well get enough happiness out of it to feel like you got a great return on investment. But unless you bought something that was really near, you know, perfection, and somehow you bought it for $2, I doubt you're going to get a 50% return on investment, especially with the market the way it is right now. So you want to write a plan, know what you want to spend, know what you intend to do, know what you intend to do in order of importance, because, you know, you may not be able to do all the things right now, but over time you may be able to get those things done until you've completed all of the things on your list. And you want to be honest, and more than honest, realistic, but you do want to be specific. And whatever you do, do not spend more money than you are willing to lose. Because, you know, who knows? It's the story we tell about the room I'm sitting right now is the addition that we built onto our home. And when we started the project, it was in the portion of the pandemic where, you know, stuff was slow and people were, you know, trying to do things. It was before the building frenzy and the renovation frenzy started. And so we do contracting. We know what stuff costs. We know what materials cost. We know what our labor should be. You know, we sat down, we wrote out a plan of exactly how much this thing should cost. And I think maybe we were working another project. So we couldn't get to our own project because, you know, we're going to do the one where they're writing us a check first. So before we could get to our project, that thing shifted. And there was maybe a 900% increase in the cost of materials. And so the money that we had set aside to do the complete project then became what it cost to complete framing. And the roof was already off. So we were just like, girl, we're going to be eating beans and rice. And it's my mom and I. We're going to be eating beans and rice trying to get this thing done. But you want to have a realistic idea of how the markets are moving. And sometimes there are those things you can't control. That was really something we did not see coming. 900%. So, you know, but you do your best to write a plan and stick to your plan. And so that's it. My name is Nikki Collins. And if you have any real estate questions, my phone number is 281-414-5709. And I'm always reachable by email, nvcollins, V like Victoria, nvcollins@keysres.com.
You said that really fast. I was trying to type it in the chat for you. Say that again. NV. And I have it. I just
Collins@keysres.com.
nvcollins@keysres.com.
Yes.
Okay, and your phone number again.
281.
Oh, it's right on the screen.
Uh-huh.
What am I doing? 414-5709. All right, cool beans. I don't have any other questions in the chat. I know we haven't gotten to the segment yet of appraising for property tax value purposes, but that's coming up soon.
Yeah.
I know those valuation notices should be going out April-ish or somewhere around in there. What is it that you want people to know to kind of look forward to as they start to receive these appraised tax valuations, or if they're looking to get renovations done now, or if they've gotten renovations done already, but weren't done at the first of the year or weren't done by the first of the year, or
Mhm.
how does that work?
So the last few times we've talked about what happens during this tax season, I was like, "Ooh, child," because the comps are out there,
Mm, mm.
right? To support whatever foolishness they're telling you. This year, it may be your season.
Okay,
It may,
detail.
well, we are finding that values are just, they are not where they were. They are not where they were. So if you see something this year that looks like where it was last year or the year before even, and get an appraiser to look at those values for you. I mean, unless you really know what's happening value-wise in your area, get an appraiser to take a cursory look at least. A good appraiser should be willing to tell you, you know, I took a quick little look and I'm not gonna be able to I'm not gonna be able to help you with this. An honest one will tell you, and then kind of they may charge you a little consultation fee to do, but if you do this based on what I know about your property, you would want to attack it more from this direction as opposed to that direction. One of the things we were saying in previous years, especially because the comps were there to support the numbers, were typically when they look at putting those valuations together, they're comparing them to the best of the comparables out there, right? Those comparables have all of the things done. And unless your property also has all of the things done, then they're not comparing apples to apples. But what was being required over the last couple of years, what was being required over the last couple of years was that you bring in estimates. They didn't want you to just say, I have some sheetrock work I need to get done, and I think it's going to cost so and so. No, they needed John Q Contractor to say that, I went and I did an evaluation of the property, and these are the things that need to be done. Excuse me, and this is what it would cost, labor and materials to do that. And then they would be willing to make an adjustment
Yes.
to the assessed value.
So in other words, people pay attention to those tax values when they start to come out in the next coming months. Pay attention, definitely pay attention,
Yes.
because it could mean the difference between paying a couple of dollars to a couple of $100 to a couple of $1,000 difference in your property taxes. So pay attention. All right. Um, go through the chat here. I didn't have a question that was emailed to me for you. With the exception of the Genefact, Generac, and the solar panels, is there anything else that a homeowner should be looking at or thinking about when it comes to making permanent changes to their home? Or um example, my the patio in my backyard needs to be redone. And then the little thing that I was looking at, the guy was telling me that um because it's like a portable kind of a pergola, gazebo,
Mhm.
kitchen kind of thing, and it's not actually attached to the house,
Mhm.
that it wouldn't be counted towards my appraised value because it's not affixed. So literally, basically, I could kind of pick it up and move it if I needed to. Is because I know people want to do their patios, backyards, and put kitchens and outdoors and things like that. What does something like that do for your value when you're affixed, not affixed, or attached, not attached? What do you do? Putting the pergolas and the awnings and all that stuff that's attached to your house. Nothing. It does nothing.
So
Mm.
here's the secret. Unless your contractor is an appraiser, do not let your contractor talk value to you.
Mm.
We went out and did this appraisal of this house in Galveston. This many moons ago. And I'll never forget it though, because it literally looked like what children build with Legos. But the contractor had told her, it was stuff it was going up everywhere.
Mm.
And I mean, pipes running. We think we're gonna die out there. It's crazy. But the contractor had told her, oh, we're adding this many square feet, we're adding this many rooms, we're adding this, these bathrooms. By the time we're done, this is going to increase your value by fill in the blank. And we got there, and I was so heartbroken because it was an elderly lady who was trying to build legacy for her family. And we had to come in. We actually ended up having some of our contractors go out there and see what can we salvage, what can we do. And we were like, listen, we're gonna have to do this where it's gonna cost this lady, because she had spent all of this money with the expectation that it was going to, give her all of this value based on the word of someone who has no expertise in valuation. His job is to get your money. And so back to the patio part. There's a line in there. So there's not a real line on the appraisal form for patios, right? They ask you in what's on the house, is there a patio? And there's like a checkbox, right? It's like put an X on the box on the form. And whether there is a stoop, whether there is an open, concrete pad, whether there is a covered patio, if it's just where somebody's put a little gravel situation back there with a fire pit in the middle, we check the box that there is a patio.
But no value there.
That's it.
Mm.
Because again, two houses next door to each other. One has an affixed awning and one has a detached pergola. Is the average buyer going to say, I will do an additional $10,000 for this? Probably not.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. In other words, folks, stay in your lane. That's not our forte. Don't let the contractor tell you what is or what isn't. Check with an appraiser.
And we always say, if you're not changing the footprint of your property, if you're not adding square footage, if you're not adding a bedroom, and even when you add a bedroom, you got to think about what makes sense. You've gotten rid of the only dining area in your house to put in a bedroom. That's probably not the wisest, because now the house is no longer functional. There are just some things that you want to consider when you're making those changes. But then those things, when you're not doing those kinds of changes, you're not going to see the grand scale return. Will you get some return? Probably, because if you've gone and you've reworked your patio, it's gonna be considered in the composite of it all, condition wise, appeal wise. But like that one piece, I spent $90,000 for this outdoor kitchen. It's not gonna be what you think.
Mm-hmm. Okay. That is very good to know. All right. With that being said, thank you, Miss Nikki. Appreciate you for being here. And Brian's already gone, but we want to thank him and Smith Group Property Inspections for giving our home maintenance presentation. Miss Nikki Keys with Keys Real Estate Services, we thank you once again, and congratulations on your real estate license as well. Welcome to the club. And I'm pretty sure your family's been trying to get you in that direction for quite a while. So,
But I don't wanna.
hey, we gotta do what we gotta. But thank you all very much for joining us this afternoon. We're going to relinquish the remainder of the afternoon time that we had slotted for this presentation. If you do find yourself that have questions in regards to home maintenance or appraised values, then make sure you please reach out to us and let us know, and I'll make sure that the questions get to the presenters or on the email that I send out, I will also make sure that their contact information is there. You can reach out to them directly as well if you do have questions. We typically would do this presentation the third Wednesday of each month. However, we're going to be moving to every other month to bring you some other post homeownership home maintenance kind of presentations in between those times for you. So again, the recording is made available. It will also be available on our YouTube channel as well as our social media pages for you all to go back and view the presentation. So feel free to join us again in April for another home maintenance presentation, but look for the schedule to come out in the next week or two with the third Wednesday, what's going to be covered for our post homeownership schedule or our presentation. So thank y'all very much. You all have a wonderful remainder of your day. Take care of yourselves. You stay safe. Stay warm out there. It's supposed to get even cooler tonight, as far as I know, right? Isn't supposed to drop some more. So make sure you cover up those pipes and get the pets inside, cover up the plants and all that good stuff. There's no telling what's really going to happen. You know, it's Houston. We'd hate to say it's going to be freezing tonight. You know, we may be in Bermuda shorts later on. Who knows? There's no telling. So, but it's better to be prepared than not. So, just to be on the safe side, make sure that you guys take care of yourselves and check on your neighbors, check on those relatives that are, you know, by themselves, a little bit elderly. You want to make sure that they're doing okay as well. So, and that they're staying safe as well. So thank y'all very much for joining. You all have a good day, and we will see y'all next time. All right.